On a quiet evening in Elm Row, the sun began to set behind the small homes lining the street. It was the year 2021, and the town was known for its friendly neighbors and peaceful atmosphere. People often greeted each other, but little did they know, one of their own was soon to be a victim of a shocking crime. That evening, a 33-year-old teacher named Josephina Wright was out for a walk. She enjoyed the fresh air and the calm of her surroundings. Little did she realize that this routine walk would change her life forever. As the evening grew darker, Josephina did not come back home. Her husband, John, began to worry when she was late. He waited for over an hour before he decided to search for her. John walked the usual paths they took together and called her name. The air felt thick with fear. After searching for what felt like forever, John decided to tell the police. He knew something was wrong. The police arrived quickly and began to ask questions, but there was no sign of Josephina. John's heart pounded in his chest as he considered every possibility. Hours later, a neighbor named Mrs. Davidson heard a strange noise in her backyard. Curious, she went outside and found something on the ground. There, behind the bushes, she saw Josephina's handbag lying open. Mrs. Davidson felt a chill run down her spine. She recognized the bag instantly and rushed to call the police. This was not how anyone wanted to end a peaceful evening in Elm Row. The news spread quickly through the neighborhood, and people gathered, anxious to hear what had happened. When the police arrived at the scene, they began to search the area. They carefully examined Josephina's bag, which held her phone and some personal items. A few officers began taking notes, while others spread out to look for any signs of her. The mood was tense as neighbors watched and whispered about what might have happened. Some wondered if Josephina had an accident, while others feared a more sinister event. What could have happened to her? As night settled in, the investigation grew. Officers talked to people around the neighborhood, looking for anyone who might have seen something unusual that evening. Many described the area as quiet and safe, but with Josephina missing, dark questions arose. Was this an accident, or was there a chance she was taken? The community was shaken and wanted answers. Some imagined the worst outcomes. Others hoped for her safe return. Speculation swirled through the town. Some thought that Josephina may have known her attacker, while others insisted the threat could come from a stranger. The investigation moved slowly, but the urgency in everyone's hearts kept them engaged. As the question of Josephina's safety hung in the air, the real search for truth began. All those involved held their breath, reaching out for clarity in a situation that felt heavy with uncertainty. The story of the Phantom of Elm Row had begun with an unsettling crime, pulling together the lives of ordinary people thrust into a world of fear and mystery. That first night set into motion a journey that would change everything, not just for Josephina, but for the entire town. As they braced themselves for what was to come, the echoes of concern rippled through the community, uniting friends, family, and neighbors in shared worry and collective hope for answers. The search for Josephina was now no longer just a local matter. It had become a race against time. The morning after Josephina Wright's disappearance, law enforcement arrived in Elm Row with a sense of urgency. Detectives from the local police station quickly gathered information. They knew time was crucial when someone went missing. Officer Alvin took the lead, knowing he had to act fast to help bring Josephina home. His experience in solving missing persons cases gave him confidence as he started the investigation. Detectives began by collecting evidence from the area around where Josephina's handbag was found. They looked for footprints, anything unusual, and clues that might help them understand what happened. Forensic teams arrived soon after, wearing gloves and protective gear as they carefully examined all possible evidence. They documented everything meticulously, taking photographs and collecting samples. Each piece of evidence was vital for reconstructing Josephina's last steps. Meanwhile, Officer Jennings worked on gathering surveillance footage from nearby homes and businesses. Every camera could hold crucial details. She explained the importance of this footage to the other officers. They also interviewed witnesses who might have seen Josephina that evening. Some neighbors were relieved to help while others felt nervous. They shared their thoughts about her sudden disappearance, describing that she was a friendly and trusting person. Many worried about what might have happened. As the investigation moved forward, two neighbors began to act suspiciously. David, a man known to walk his dog around the same time every evening, told officers he saw nothing unusual that night. However, his story seemed inconsistent. He had often exchanged friendly words with Josephina during her walks, but now his words felt off. The officers made a note of this as they continued their inquiries. Another resident, Apollo, had been staying home that evening. Officers learned that Apollo had missed Josephina's arrival. Friends said that Apollo often left home at night. Her actions made leaders dig deeper as they searched for answers. Although Apollo had no known connection with Josephina, her behavior raised yet more questions. Could she have seen something? Did she know more than she had said? The mood in the neighborhood shifted as these suspicions grew. Fear spread through Elm Row as residents wondered about the truth. Was this simply a case of someone getting lost, or was there a more serious crime? The officers reassured the public that they were doing everything to find Josephina. Residents began to come together, hoping to support each other in any way possible. Community flyers asking for any information about Josephina began appearing in windows and on telephone poles, urging anyone who might know something to speak up. Meanwhile, the police launched social media campaigns, hoping the outreach would help gather tips. The investigations were more than finding Josephina. They aimed to uncover the truth behind her disappearance. The excitement in the air was tight with tension. While mystery hung over the small town of Elm Row, hope remained. People prayed for Josephina's safe return, and the detectives were determined to find her. They believed the pieces would come together, leading them to the answers they sought. Each hour that passed increased their hope, but also their commitment to bring the truth to light and reclaim safety for their community. As the investigation into Josephina Wright's disappearance continued, detectives discovered an unsettling pattern hidden in the town's history. Officer Alvin learned that two similar incidents had occurred in Elm Row over the past 3 years. In these cases, other women had also disappeared for some days before returning home. Each time, police could not find any leads or solid evidence. This made the current investigation feel even more urgent. The police worked quickly to see if anything connected these past cases with Josephina's situation. The team wanted to uncover if there was something sinister behind these rare but troubling occurrences. While reviewing older case files, they found that both previous women had similar backgrounds. They were known to walk alone in their neighborhood at night. This raised alarms among the officers. Officer Jennings decided to speak with the women's families to learn more about their experiences. What happened during their absence? Did they notice anything strange or suspicious before they went missing? Families were eager to help, offering any details they could. Every word they shared could be critical in understanding what happened to Josephina and the others. However, complications soon began to arise as the investigation unfolded. Some leads from the community seemed promising, but turned out to lead nowhere. One man claimed he saw someone that night dragging a bag down the street. He was confident, but later couldn't remember exact details or where he saw this. The police realized they could not fully trust every witness. As frustration grew, detectives had to carefully separate truth from misleading information. Media attention also increased greatly. Local news outlets began reporting about Josephina's case every day. Many stories focused on the mysterious aspects of her disappearance. While the visibility raised community awareness, it also put pressure on the police. Officers felt they had to solve the case quickly, with cameras and microphones asking for updates at every turn. This constant watch made them feel anxious, as they were not always sure they could provide satisfying answers. As leads continued to develop and get lost, Conflict within reports also created more chaos. Some neighbors claimed they saw Apollo the night Josephina disappeared, while others said they did not. These mixed statements caused confusion. Determined to avoid making any mistakes, Detective Alvin requested a timeline of events to clarify what happened those days. He wanted to track how the timeline could point to inconsistencies in witness testimonies. Each step forward was loaded with obstacles. The investigation turned into a careful dance of gathering information while validating facts. Officers worked to ensure they remained grounded in reality, fighting against the noise from claims and rumors. Among the noise, a small group of volunteers from the town continued their search. The community mobilized, putting together search groups to comb through local parks and alleyways. Their determination filled the air with hope, even amid doubt and confusion. Through all attempts to seek clarity, the truth began to feel elusive. The investigation revealed many paths, but not a clear direction. Each hour raised new questions as people speculated about what could happen next. Nevertheless, hopes remained steadfast. Everyone involved knew that perseverance and a strong partnership would eventually lead to the answers they sought for Josephina and for a community yearning for peace. As more discoveries were made, the investigation pressed on, steady in its quest to uncover the truth behind the mysterious disappearance. As the investigation into Josephina Wright's disappearance continued, detectives faced many frustrating leads and conflicts. However, a critical discovery brought new energy to the case. The forensic team returned to the police station with exciting news. They had successfully found DNA on Josephina's handbag. The discovery opened a new chapter for the investigation. This new piece of evidence gave hope for answers, creating a sense of urgency to uncover who it belonged to. The DNA sample was tested against a national database. Hours felt like days as everyone waited for results. Finally, the detectives received a call that signaled a turning point. The DNA matched a man named Anderson, a local resident with a troubling history. Anderson had been previously arrested for stalking and harassment. His past raised serious concerns. Detectives quickly realized he could be a key suspect in Josephina's case. Detective Alvin gathered his team for a meeting after learning about Anderson's history. Everyone felt a mix of relief and worry. This new direction could help but also raise questions. Was Anderson connected to Josephina? Had he targeted her for a reason? The detectives needed to act fast. They decided to reach out to Anderson and bring him in for questioning. As they prepared for the confrontation, tension filled the air. Officer Jennings felt both excited and nervous. The team was determined to find the truth, but they also needed to be careful. Anderson already had civilians watching, and if word got out too soon, it could tip him off. Officers planned their approach, wanting to create an environment where he could be honest. The next day, officers arrived at Anderson's home early in the morning. Time was essential, and they hoped to catch him off guard. With their hearts racing, they knocked on the door. Anderson answered, wearing a tired look. Officers introduced themselves, explaining they needed to ask questions regarding Josephina's case. Anderson's expression changed. He knew the significance of that day was heavy. At first, Anderson appeared calm, but his behavior quickly shifted. He started fidgeting and sweating as the officers asked about his movements that night. His inconsistent answers left detectives feeling uneasy. They placed more emphasis on the DNA evidence, explaining that it linked him directly to Josephina's handbag. His demeanor changed visibly when he heard this, and confusion entered his eyes. As the questioning continued, things began to unfold. Anderson finally admitted he had seen Josephina while walking in the area that evening. However, he insisted he did not harm her. He said he was just passing by and never touched anything. His alibi felt weak. Detectives decided to take him in for further questioning at the station. The feeling of uncertainty hung heavy, but determination surged through the officers. As they placed Anderson in the police car, the gravity of the situation hit everyone at once. The tension built, as officers were now deep inside a web filled with possible truths and secret motives. Could Anderson really be involved, or was he hiding something deeper? The community watched closely, anxious for updates on Josephina's case. With this unexpected suspect in hand, the investigation reached new heights of drama and intensity, pushing the detectives closer to uncovering the shocking truth behind Josephina's disappearance. With each passing moment, the heat of the investigation became increasingly intense. At the police station, Anderson sat in an interview room, his hands resting nervously on the table. The atmosphere was thick with tension as Detective Alvin and Officer Jennings entered. They had prepared for this moment. Anderson's past actions already painted a troubling picture. However, they needed to extract the truth, so they approached him with care and authority. The detectives took their seats across from him. Anderson looked uneasy, glancing away and biting his lip, showing signs of stress. Detective Alvin began the conversation calmly, stating that they already knew about the DNA evidence linking him to Josephina's handbag. Anderson's expression shifted, revealing a hint of panic behind his eyes. He was aware of the seriousness of the situation, but quickly adopted a defensive stance. He began to deny everything, insisting that he had nothing to do with Josephina's disappearance. He claimed that he only walked by and had simply found the bag in a moment of curiosity. As the questioning progressed, Anderson's story became more complicated. When the detectives presented the timeline of the night, he hesitated before answering. Realizing that consistency was faltering, he switched tactics, becoming more manipulative. "You think you know everything," he said, trying to shift focus away from his actions. "How can you trust anyone's word? I have never hurt anyone." This was his way of trying to make the detectives doubt their evidence. He wanted them to question their own credibility rather than facing his uncomfortable truths. Detective Jennings noticed how desperate Anderson was to avoid responsibility. "You need to understand," she said firmly, "that we are just trying to find Josephina. The truth will help us." Their words seemed to break through the defenses he had built. After several intense minutes of back and forth, Anderson's bravado started to crack. He stopped avoiding eye contact, resting his head in his hands, clearly overwhelmed by the weight of the accusations against him. It was at that moment that Anderson shifted again. He began to recount a troubling story about his past relationships. He mentioned feelings of rejection and how he struggled to connect with women. "People never wanted me around," he muttered, a hint of despair coloring his tone. This revelation revealed the psychological aspects of his behavior. It became evident that the pressure of the investigation was extracting deeper emotions, sparking thoughts related to his feelings of inadequacy. With this admission, the detectives pressed on. They asked him about his thoughts on Josephina. Did he feel angry or resentful for her kindness? Anderson appeared to contemplate this. The room was filled with silence for a moment, as the weight of the reality hung heavy in the air. "I never meant to do anything to her," he finally shouted, tears forming in his eyes. Suddenly the room pulsed with energy as they realized he was teetering close to a breaking point. Under pressure, he began to waver between denial and revealing hints of guilt. "I was scared she would reject me like everyone else," he confessed. "I couldn't let her see the real me." The fragmented statements pointed to internal conflicts, possibly showing a fear of rejection that led him to feel desperate enough to lash out. The revelations created a turbulent atmosphere, and the detectives pressed further to guide him toward the full truth. This point in the interrogation was critical. They sensed that they were close to uncovering the full story of that night. Watching Anderson wrestle with his emotions allowed the detectives to understand the personal motives behind his actions. They prepared for the next phase of the investigation, knowing the truth might finally reveal itself. But first, they needed this struggling man to realize the complexity of his actions and hopefully guide himself toward true accountability. After a heated investigation, the case against Anderson finally moved to the courtroom. The atmosphere surrounding the trial was tense. The community of Elm Row held its breath, eager for answers about what happened to Josephina Wright. Anderson was charged with her kidnapping and suspected involvement in other serious crimes. The trial began with the world watching closely. For many, this case showed deeply rooted issues around mental health and public safety. During the trial, evidence presented by the prosecution was strong. DNA from Josephina's handbag clearly linked Anderson to the case. Witnesses shared their stories, remembering the distress surrounding Josephina's disappearance. The emotional weight of their testimonies affected everyone in the courtroom. Each voice carried Josephina's presence, serving as a reminder of what was at stake. Her family sat in the front row, heartbroken, seeking justice for their loved one. However, Anderson's defense team strongly contested the charges. They argued that Anderson acted out of fear and confusion, suggesting mental health issues played a role in his actions. The defense painted a picture of a troubled man rather than a monster, hoping to humanize him in the jury's eyes. Their strategy attempted to shift blame, alleging that societal pressures and feelings of isolation pushed Anderson to his actions with no intent to harm. Days turned into weeks, filled with lengthy arguments and emotional moments. The courtroom drama created a vivid picture of Josephina's life and her untimely struggles. As the case pushed forward, it became clear that the choice to charge Anderson with such serious offenses weighed heavily on everyone involved. The prosecutor pressed with urgency, while Anderson remained visibly anxious, trying to process the pressure around him. As evidence unfolded, a surprise witness came forward, raising unexpected questions. A friend of Anderson's testified about their conversations leading up to the events. This friend described how Anderson had often spoken about his feelings of rejection and desperation. The testimony caused tension within the courtroom. Some were moved, while others felt anger rise. The friend explained how, during conversations, Anderson openly voiced fears about women rejecting him. This detail created uncertainty, allowing the jury to sense a deeper conflict between mental health and criminal action. The trial concluded with echoes of strong emotions filling the courtroom. Families of previous victims joined Josephina's family, seeking closure for their pain. The judge took time to carefully consider the evidence and the testimonies. The community waited with bated breath as the decision loomed over their lives. Local news stations followed every detail, fueling discussions and varying opinions throughout Elm Row. While many supported Josephina's family, others wondered about Anderson's mental state. Finally, the day of the verdict came. Families filed into the courtroom, their hopes pinned on justice. The room remained quiet, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. As the judge entered and addressed the court, everyone's heart raced. The jury gave their decision. Anderson was found guilty of kidnapping, but the charges regarding other crimes did not come with severe consequences. This outcome shocked both sides. While Josephina's family found some comfort in justice, the mixed response left a lingering feeling of incomplete resolution. Anderson was sentenced to a lengthy term in prison for his actions, with additional mental health support provided as part of rehabilitation. The legal proceedings sparked discussions both in and out of the courtroom about many important issues. The trial highlighted the ongoing need for support systems in mental health and community safety. Elm Row now had to rebuild trust, continuing to heal from the scars the case left behind. The case would be remembered, not only for its drama, but as a turning point for many in the community. The trial of Anderson attracted significant media attention. News teams from across the region flooded Elm Row. Reporters stood outside the courthouse, always ready with cameras and microphones. The slow-moving trial revealed the gripping tale of a young woman's disappearance and the dark truths hidden in the shadows of the town. As viewers watched from their homes, Josephina's story became a topic of everyday conversation. Communities united in a quest for justice as the events unfolded. Many people were outraged at the circumstances surrounding Josephina's disappearance. A website was created to share resources, raise awareness, and support for victims and their families. The case brought the topics of mental health and violence against women into the public eye. Townsfolk expressed their thoughts on social media, leading to discussions about what could be done to help others in similar situations. While many praised the legal system for its efforts in bringing Anderson to trial, others remained skeptical. Some thought Anderson's mental health challenges should have received more attention during the trial. The mixed response fueled doubts about how the justice system treated individuals in similar cases. Questions arose about whether the sentences were severe enough to prevent further incidents. Some community members feared that Anderson's treatment would let dangerous behaviors continue to thrive without proper consequences. As media coverage intensified, the public's attention shifted from a focus on Josephina's case to broader societal issues. Conversations emerged about connections between mental health and criminal behavior. Several articles cited examples of how better mental health resources might prevent tragedies like this. Grassroots groups began advocating for change, asking local governments to prioritize funding for mental health programs. These efforts aimed to create safer spaces for individuals struggling with interpersonal relationships and emotional distress. Despite the hope for answers, lingering doubts about Josephina's case kept resurfacing. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire online. Some people insisted there was more to the story that law enforcement had not revealed. Others claimed Anderson was not the only one involved and believed the investigation covered up the actions of additional suspects. This speculation created unease among residents, making them wonder if they were safe in their own homes. In the aftermath, many questioned the thoroughness of the investigation. Were there details overlooked? Could other witnesses have come forward? How could similar crimes be prevented in the future? The unanswered questions fueled discussions among community members. Town meetings were organized to provide a platform for everyone to voice their concerns and experiences. As time passed, tension began to wane. The community worked together to heal from the wounds of the case. Support groups formed for victims of crime, offering a safe space for people wanting to share their stories. The hope was that Josephina's case could lead to action, raising awareness and creating change. Months later, while Anderson began serving his sentence, the residents of Elm Row slowly moved forward, still grappling with emotions tied to the past. They remained inspired by hope for progress, but the scars of fear and uncertainty would remind them of that painful time for years to come. Within those reflections lay the promise of resilience, a community refusing to forget the lessons and seeking safety for each of its members. The case of Josephina Wright has left a significant mark on the community of Elm Row. Justice was served when Anderson was found guilty of kidnapping. He received a lengthy prison sentence, but many felt it was not enough for a crime that caused so much pain. While Josephina's family found some closure, they were still haunted by the loss and the questions that lingered. What truly happened to Josephina during those dark days? Will her family ever feel whole again? These questions may never have firm answers, leaving uncertainty in their hearts. The impact of this case went far beyond the courtroom. It raised essential discussions about mental health, public safety, and community support. Since the trial, local governments began reviewing policies related to mental health resources. They recognized the importance of addressing underlying issues that could lead to violent behavior. While the case did not lead to specific legal changes, it sparked a movement for better awareness, helping people understand the complexities of mental health problems and their effects on communities. From this tragic event, we also learned about the burdens that can lead someone to act violently. Anderson's fear of rejection and deep feelings of inadequacy were central to his behavior. Understanding this aspect opens a window into the minds of those who may struggle similarly. It reminds us that meeting mental health needs is essential in preventing tragic outcomes. The importance of dialogues around mental health became clearer not only in Elm Row, but in many neighborhoods across the country. Despite the closure offered by Anderson's sentencing, some questioned if he would benefit from rehabilitation during his time in prison. Would he seek help for his struggles, Or would he remain trapped in the patterns that led him to commit his crime? The uncertainty posed difficult challenges for the legal system and the community. People were aware that addressing such issues could truly change lives and prevent future tragedies, like Josephina's disappearance. As conversations continued on this case, a call to action arose within Elm Row and beyond. The need to raise awareness for missing persons cases became evident. Citizens supported local initiatives to help keep the topic alive, reminding others of the importance of community vigilance and support. Many understood the potential impact of every shared story, every missing poster, and every voice raised in advocacy. In the end, Josephina's case became more than just a tragic tale. It became a catalyst for change, urging everyone to take a stance on issues surrounding safety, mental health, and support in their neighborhoods. As communities reflect on the lessons learned, the relevant questions remain. Could justice ever truly be served in this case? What will we do to prevent future tragedies? It is a reminder that each voice has power, and each action counts. The tragedies that shock us can inspire us to create a better environment for all, turning sorrow into strength and awareness into action.